welcome to the Inspired Riding Podcast. I'm your host, Beth Lauren Parrish. As a certified riding instructor, remote coach, and animal communicator, I bridge the gap between your inner and outer worlds as you strive to enhance all aspects of your riding. I'm here to remind you that you are powerful and more than capable of changing your reality with your horse time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inspired Riding interview series. I am so incredibly grateful that my dear friend and amazing trainer all the way in South Africa, Jenku Dietrichsen, is here to chat with us. Welcome, Jenku.
Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to be here this beautiful morning, and thank you so much. Welcome, America.
I'm really glad you're here, and I have all sorts of questions. Do you want to share just like a tidbit of what you do and what lights up for you in the horse world?
Woo. Now that I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. So I am currently working on membership sites that I call Jenku TV, and the intention is to really help people to break things down into the smallest learnable steps, because I find that a lot of people are finding it very hard to train, and especially during COVID, it's like people were getting a bit lost. It's like, and they didn't have access to their trainers, and so it's been a very interesting journey for me as well. But I'm very excited. It's like that it is possible that technology is actually enabling us to do this, and so I've been working on trying to make 2-minute videos, and imagine me trying to make a 2-minute video of something that I've said in a whole hour, try and edit that down to just 2 minutes. So it's very challenging, but I'm very excited that it's coming along. And I've also had to learn to animate. So all the experience over the last 30 years, I'm now able to package it myself in a very logical and chronological order that I trust is really going to give people a roadmap so that they can really help themselves without necessarily having to depend on a trainer. The trainer will obviously add value, but I think it's quite important to enable people so that they can do it themselves, between themselves and their horse, and that a third party, if anything, will just enhance that experience. But in principle, the intention is for them to be able to do it on their own.
That is fantastic, and I'm really impressed with that. And I really agree. It's so important to have those small moments of learning so you can learn and implement. And it's wonderful to be able to do that. I've just finished a 12-week course that does exactly the same, but helps people get brave in the saddle. So once they've gone through that and they're ready to really get their training on, then your program should be ready. It'll be a perfect match. So it's very exciting.
Oh, I like that. There's synergy. I think that's what it's about. And it is interesting, people trying to build people's confidence. It's like, so yeah, especially in the horsey world, it's like, it's not always friendly, eh?
I'm doing my best to change that.
So yeah, fist bump, put it there. Virtual fist bump.
I love it. Okay, Jenku, I'm going to ask you a really fun question. If I handed you 10 million US dollars right now, what would be the first thing you would do?
Woo! Fly to you.
Woohoo!
10 million. Actually, I could fly several times to you and back.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we'll buy what I call the I Can bus, because I actually heard that they have Airbus A380s, and they're going quite inexpensive at the moment because they're on sale. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the upper story, humans can fly there, and the horses will fly downstairs, and then we spend summertime in America, and then we spend summertime in South Africa, because it's northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, so we'll never have a winter.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to spend my $10 million on.
How fun.
It's on an I Can bus.
Yes. And I'll have my facility, and you can have all your clinics there. It would be brilliant. So yes.
Woo! Now we're talking. Let's
do this. Yeah, we're speaking into existence. Yep.
Abracadabra. Do you know what the word abracadabra means?
I believe it is, and I speak it and it happens. Is that what it is?
Yeah, you're close. I'm impressed. So most people say to me it's a magic spell. But in Old Hebrew, it quite literally means I create what I speak. So yeah, it's powerful here. Very powerful words.
Very.
Abracadabra. So you said it, I said abracadabra, so it's going to happen.
Ta-da! I love it. So fun. Oh my goodness. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your history, like how you got started in writing and what that experience was like for you.
Oh, okay. So that's way back. When I was 7 years old, we used to go to my gran in a different part of South Africa. It's called the Free State. It was called the Free State then. So it was about 300 or 400 kilometers from where we lived. We lived in a medium-sized town. And so every second Friday, we would go in the car and travel to her and go and spend the weekend there on the farm. And on the way there, we had a picnic. And this donkey walked up to us. And I said to my dad, I want to ride this donkey. My dad says, how do you know that whether it's tame or not? And I go, surely if it's so friendly and it walks up to us, it's rideable. So I said, can I hop on it? He said, I'm not so sure if that's a clever idea. So he popped me on and he stood back. And in those days, there were no cell phones or digital cameras. It was still film. And he stood back and he took a photograph of me riding this donkey with nothing on, no saddle, no bridle, nothing. Oh. And so the donkey walked calmly for about 5 or 10 steps. And the next thing, it bucked me off into a barbed wire fence. And so I was hooked for life. That's how I got into riding horses.
Amazing. So did they find someone to give you lessons or?
So then the other interesting thing is my cousin lives in the same province, it's like, but a different, on the opposite side. And so we used to live in Namibia. After that, we lived in Namibia for about 7 years, and we would come and visit once a year, come and visit all our family, like a road trip almost. And so I used to ride with him once a year, and we would go, it's quite a long ride. They've got a big maize farm, and we would go all the way to the river, and then when the horses turned around and they started going home, they actually just bolted. So initially I tried to hold the horse back, and he said to me, don't do that, the horse is going to rear, let go of the reins. So I would hold on to the saddle and the mane and scream for 2.5 kilometers, and this horse would just bolt home with me. And I knew that it would stop when it gets home. So I just knew I had to stay on until I got home. So I didn't actually have any lessons until I joined the South African Mounted Police in 1990. I never had, I was able to stay on.
That's amazing. Well, I'm glad it didn't keep you from riding.
No, I think I'm way, when it's weird, it's like in South Africa, we have something that we call horse sickness. Now, you can inoculate for horses against it, but you can't inoculate humans against it because there's no injection that works for humans when they have horse sickness. Eh?
It's funny. I was exactly thinking we call it being bitten by the bug, but instead of being bitten, I believe you and I were attacked by the bug.
Exactly. We have it's like zombie nation.
Yes. There's no going back ever, and that's totally fine.
Definitely not. There's no cure for what we have.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to go into some of the questions that my group members in the Inspired Riding Connection asked. One of them, I'll start out with Jana. Jana asked a really cool question. She said, what's one thing you feel every horse owner or rider ought to learn and utilize daily with their horses?
Sure. Okay. Wow. Thank you for that lovely question, Jana. It's I would venture to say, so just from my own point of view, there's one thing that I've developed, and it comes from learning theory, but I have, I think, made it more simple and more accessible, and I call it the 3 agreements. And the 3 agreements is literally a clear way of communicating, yes, this is what I want for desired behavior. And then the second agreement is a clear way of communicating, no, this is not what I want for an undesired behavior. And then the third agreement is a clear way of, if in doubt, just go to neutral, so whether the horse and or the rider becomes anxious, is just go to neutral, relax, and let's just reset, and then we can try again. So at the core of what I do, that is whether we're working with a one-day-old foal or a Grand Prix level horse, I'm using those 3 agreements and everything that I do with the horses. And I've actually come to call it one common language, because whether I work with show jumpers or race horses in starting stalls, or dressage horses doing in-hand or under saddle, piaffe, passage, canter, pirouette, fundamentally those 3 agreements is the entire language without words is based, or the one common language is based on those 3 agreements. So it's become a part of just what we do. It's like us speaking in English. You say we are able to communicate because we both speak English. Imagine if you were speaking French and I was only speaking Afrikaans, we wouldn't be able to communicate to each other or with each other. It's like, so it's such a nice thing to have the ability to, in a very simple way, give direct and accurate feedback. Yes or no, is this what you want, or is this what you want? And I think, yeah, so definitely as far as really going down to the core of it, that's what I do every day, all day, every 5 to 12 seconds. I'm either saying yes or no or neutral.
Love that. And that's very similar to what I tell my clients. Clarity equals kindness.
Oh, that's deep. I love it. It's really nice. Yo.
Yeah. And so you are doing that with your horses by creating that clear yes, the clear no, or if we're not sure, we just wait it out. Right?
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Clarity creates kindness.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's for humans and horses, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of it's so interesting when you get really strict instructors that speak with the voice of God, that think that it is a very militant way in which we should teach. There's a beautiful, to go a little bit off topic, there's a beautiful presupposition in neurolinguistic programming that says the quality of your communication is in the response that you get. So that's one. And then the other one is there's no such thing as an untrainable student, only inflexible teacher. So it puts the onus right back on the teacher to say, if someone doesn't understand, raising your tone of voice and speaking with the voice of God and then trying to be all militant, it's not going to help them at all, because you're actually not helping them. You're making them even more anxious when you do that. So if you start seeing someone getting worried and anxious, the onus is on you to take it back and deconstruct and try and explain in a different way until they get it.
Yes, and that's actually a lot of how when you're getting into that neutral place, when you're not sure what to do, that's where I put on the new cap. Get curious, be appreciative of the moment, and then be playful. You know, CAP.
Oh, wow.
So,
I love your language. It's so nice that we talk about at the core of the same thing, but how it's possible to explain it in different words. Is like at the core, it's technical, like opening up a motherboard of a computer, but when you look at a Mac, I'm an Apple fan. A Mac is very user friendly. You can literally just take it out of the box and work with it. You don't have to upload fancy software, and you don't have to worry that anything is going to clash. They talk to each other.
Totally. And that's what I love about it. And everything at the core is very similar. And it's just like what you're saying. If the student doesn't understand, it's your job to get really creative. And that's one of my favorite things about teaching. I'm like, okay, that didn't work. How about this? How about this? How about this? And you wait till the light bulb comes on, and it's a beautiful thing.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
I agree. It's very special, because to me, what really excites me is that horse-human connection, and every human and every horse is unique, and therefore the connection is unique.
Yes.
So people often say to me, you're training 9 horses in a row, you're doing fundamentally the same thing. So we're doing hock flexions for, let's say, piaffe, and we do static leg extensions for Spanish walk and passage, and we're doing neutral feet, so stand still, put your head down, And the one of my clients said, I saw you this morning when you first started training the first 2 lessons. Then she had to go off and work. And then she came back. Her lesson was the last one for the day. She said, you have just done 9 hours of doing pretty much the same thing. Don't you get bored? And I go, no, never, ever. It is fascinating to see this horse brain and this human brain. And it's never the same.
Exactly. That's the most fun thing about it. It's never boring.
It's never boring. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me get to, I think Emma is watching right now. Her question, how do you work with horses that get irritated or annoyed when you're asking for something?
Ooh, is it Emma that asked this question?
E-M.
E.M. Oh, I like that name. That's quite nice. M. So James Bond worked with M as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for your question, M. It's like, so interesting thing, just to give you a little bit of a backstory, just how I think about it. Obviously, when the brain is making new connections, that can be frustrating. So it's obviously what we're trying to do is limit the frustration or the anxiety levels as much as what we possibly can. But if the brain is doing something that is new and different, it has to obviously make new connections, and that burns calories. So at a very fundamental level, a human brain weighs 2% of our body weight, and a horse's brain weighs 1.2% of their body weight, and yet it uses 20% of the calories that we eat. So that's really interesting to know. So that is very interesting to know. And so the brain, whether it's a human brain or a horse's brain, is actually asking, what's in it for me? Why should I make new connections? I'm going to be burning some calories here. And so in a way, it starts going into a bit of a scarcity mindset. It's like, why I'm going to burn some resources here, and I don't think that's such a clever idea. So, and so when we work with incentive-based training, we are constantly topping up those calories, if you think of it.
Yes.
And then, so the brain starts relaxing. So we're keeping it out of that survival state, because obviously we're not talking about flight state. We just talk about, hey, I'm going to start burning calories here, and where am I going to get new calories from? It's like, so we're starting to go to where we not necessarily in flight state, but we're challenging the horse's survival state. And so horses, of course, if you're asking them something that's a little bit harder and they're not used to it, they can get frustrated, and they sometimes headbutt, or they push, or they start moving around, they start moving their feet around. And so one of the fundamental exercises that I do is I train the horses to stand on a rubber car mat. So in South Africa, we have a rectangular mat that's got tiny little squares on it, and I actually spray painted bright green so that it looks different than the rest of the environment. So the horses know visually, if you go and you stand on that mat, you're going to get lots of rewards. So I call that neutral feet. And so that's the physical side of it. But then obviously at a mental level, once we have the horse standing on the mat and they start recognizing, every time I put both my feet on this pressure pad, the M&M starts popping out of my human vending machine. They'll be that much more inclined to want to go and stand on the mat with both front feet. And then at a deeper level, that once we can do the physical thing, then we start going more mental, where we go, thank you for standing still. Can I also now try and help you to find a place of relaxation? And so that is basically my default behavior that I establish first and foremost before I start challenging the horses and asking them for more complex behavior. It works really well, because we then at least have a reset button. And so in a way, that is training the horse, the third agreement, that the horse, so training the answer before we actually ask the question. So if you don't know what to do, go and stand on the green mat. The M&M starts popping out of the human. And M is actually an acronym for mark and motivate. So we used to talk about click and reward. Click and reward, but the serious clicker trainers are going, oh, you are not really a clicker trainer, because I'm a little bit of a lot of things. So I used to do natural horsemanship, and then I got into clicker training, and then I got into classical dressage. So the purist will say to me, you're not really doing natural horsemanship because you're rewarding. The clicker trainers are saying you're not really doing clicker training because you're using pressure and release. The classical dressage riders are saying you're using pressure and release and you're using rewards, and so therefore it's not classically correct. And so I go, and they make it really hard. So we just said, well, in the end, it's about trying to help horses and humans. That's the bottom line. And if we can make it the process easier and less stressful, and we can keep the anxiety levels as low as what we can, then we must be doing a good thing.
I love that. And I like to call it the magic carpet. Like, you there, magic happens. And it works so well, really, because I only did a few training sessions with Pepper, and then he'll wander over to it and step on it and go, okay, where are my treats?
Oh, wow. But you know what? It's like you've even given that another name, because I actually call it neutral mat. I love magic carpet. That's really cool.
Thank you. And that's actually what I had thought of before I even knew about these concepts. I was working with a pony mare that just wouldn't stay still. I had to cold hose her every day because she had hurt her leg. And so I gave her the image. I'm like, this mat where you need to be hosed off is a magic carpet. If you step off of it, you're going to fly off, because we're in the air and we're flying and you want to stay safe. So that was the image I gave her. So when you said that, I'm going, oh, it's my magic carpet idea, but you're making it so much more accessible and clear. So I love that.
Oh, thank you for that. I love your magic carpet. Like, that's really nice. It's got a very nice connotation, because I'm an Aladdin fan as well, eh?
Good.
Robin Williams, Aladdin.
Oh gosh, such a wonderful film. Oh man, we've watched that so many times. Cool. Okay, let's get to another question.
Next one.
Sunshine in California, she would love to know how to transition from riding in safe spaces like a round pen to areas without fencing that can be a little intimidating.
Did I hear correctly? Her name is Sunshine from California.
Yes, sir.
Yes! And you are from California. Okay, so that's an interesting question. Normally I say good quality questions get good quality answers. If you, and so this another one of my sayings, rather be on the ground wishing that you were on your horse's back than be on your horse's back wishing that you were on the ground. So obviously, if you're able to ride in the round pen and that's working really well for you and your horse is confident there and you are confident in the round pen, that is really nice. So it already means that you are able to. So that's very good to know that you can ride on your horse and not go, I'm so afraid I don't want to even get on my horse. So what I normally do is, if we up the criteria and we want to now start going into let's say a bigger arena before we actually go on an outride, what I normally do is I would go on the ground, so ride the horse in the round pen and then go on the ground. And I think you guys call it a 10-foot or a 12-foot rope. It's like we call it in meters. It's like, so it's I like a 4.5 meter rope, but which is a little bit longer. It's about 14 or 15 feet as far as I know, because I work with really big warm blood. So it just makes the circle a little bit bigger and the horse is able to stay in a better balance. If you're working with a horse, it's a little bit more like a quarter horse size, then I think it's a 12-foot is a nice length. But you want to take that rope, you definitely don't want to wear gloves, and you're going to start walking around your property, and you want to start showing your horse some places. So like, let's call them milestones. So you go to a specific object and you go to the object and you go and you stand there, like I just explained with the mat, and you find relaxation. And then you pick your next milestone and then you start walking to that milestone. And if you get there, you want to help yours to find relaxation. So basically, let's say your stations or your milestones are initially 20 meters apart. Every time you start moving, the horse becomes a little bit aroused and you start going, oh, the horse is starting to look around and I'm not so sure. But then you get to your next milestone and we stop the feet and then we start moving them out. So what we're doing is we're taking the blood away from the muscles and we bring the blood back to the intestines for rest and digest. So fundamentally, the horse, when they start moving their feet, not really, but think as if they're going into towards fight or flight state. And then before they go full on fight or flight, we go back to neutral, relax. And then we move to the next one again. And so slowly you are able to start stretching those distances, or you start skipping. So let's say they were 20 meters apart. Instead of going every 20 meters, stop, stand, relax, we start going 40 meters. So we skip the in-between one. So instead of going from A, B, C, D, you start skipping. You go from A to C and you skip B, and you stop, stand, relax, get the blood away from the muscles back to the intestines. And so you're creating an environment where you start having the opportunity where you can actually check your horse out, where you're safe on the ground, and you see how your horse responds. And you're going to start seeing your horse is going into this calm, relaxed state. And when you walk, they don't even come up and start looking around like this. They just walk calmly to the next one and to the next one. And so that small little world that is a 20-meter round pen is starting to become in concentric circles, becoming a 40-meter and then a 60-meter and an 80-meter and a 100-meter circle. And eventually it's a 200 and a 400 and an 800-meter circle. So you just want to play with that and make your horse's world bigger, but in a safe way. And you'll know when your horse is calm and relaxed, that you say, I think I can ride. And then when you do get on in the round pen, let's say the gates open, you guys got nice gates, you can open it off the horse's back, but you ride and you go out of the round pen, you never want to go all the way to the edge of your horse's comfort zone. So let's say it was 800 meters away from the round pen. You want to go 400 meters away from the round pen, and then yours and your reward is to turn around, go back to the round pen, and then dismount. And the horse goes, what? I thought we were going to go all the way to the edge of my comfort zone plus 4%. We go, no, we're going to play it easy. I want you to go into I can state of mind, and I want your horse to go into I can state of mind. So on the ground, obviously we can explore and go and make that comfort zone really big. So let's say it's a kilometer eventually. I don't know if you're talking miles.
I do, but some other people in this group talk in kilometers, so you talk however you want.
So it's I think a mile is 1.2 kilometers. It's like, so let's say you go a mile. A mile is really big. It's quite a big circle around your round pen. So you don't want to go all the way to a mile. You go 600 meters, half a mile, and then you turn back. And the horse goes, but I was able to go all the way over there. You go, no, you don't have to go. So slowly you build your horse's confidence and your own confidence. And then one other thing is, if you do ride out and your horse starts getting nervous, we used to be taught you need to stay on the horse, otherwise they're going to learn a bad habit. But my wife, Catherine, was quite a nervous rider when I met her. So she wanted to do all the nice stuff, but she was nervous. And so she got off the horses. So to give you a tip, what Catherine did is she would tie, because we would ride in rope halters, so we did bitless riding and with reins. But what she did is she would tie her 12-foot rope or 15-foot rope, coil it, and then tie it with a shoelace onto the D-ring of her English saddle.
Okay.
And so if a horse started getting a little bit up on his toes because she was riding an Arab gelding, if he started getting a little bit like this, she would immediately... she would immediately dismount and just help him neutral feet, put your head down, stand and relax. So she didn't try and ride him through the problem. She got off, and when he settled down, she would just get back on, and then we'd carry on riding, because we were living on a farm in between a whole bunch of other farms. So we had access, so we could literally ride through a farm, through a river, and go to friends of ours on the other side of the river, which was amazing. Wonderful. But she had that. And so I learned that from Catherine. Catherine just said, I don't ride well enough to sit the bucks or the spins. So as soon as the horse started getting a little bit looky, she got off. And eventually she was able to ride him next to a mare, next to other horses, and he wouldn't even flick an ear. He would just walk like this. So it was fascinating to see it. Definitely it comes right. They just need time. What we tend to do is we tend to say, you mustn't jump around. And then we contain them between the bit and the reins and our legs, which makes them feel claustrophobic, which increases their stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. And so it's really interesting, catch-22. So if you actually allow the horse to have a little bit of wiggle room, they actually relax. And when they're relaxed, then of course you want to sit on their back and ride.
I love that. And this is such beautiful advice, you guys. I like to think of it as surprise your horse with a shorter session. like they say, oh, but I could do more for you. I'm like, yes, but we don't have to. And then the next session will actually be even better for you. And that's how I train a lot of younger horses and a lot of riders that need to build up confidence slowly. So I'm so glad you said that. That was a beautiful answer. And I love that your wife said, nope, I'm just going to hop off. And that's something I advocate all the time. You're not acting like the horse is going to win. That's just nonsense to me. You know, you want to create a win for both of you, because if you're not able to handle it, you're not helping your horse. So you might as well hop off and find that neutral place. So I absolutely love that. So thank you for sharing that.
Lovely. It's so interesting for me, Beth, is like to hear, because we speak on here and there, but to hear how similar it is. Isn't it fascinating that there's this universal, I think it's called universal consciousness. I think so. There might be another word for it. But we're tapping into the ether and we're downloading similar information. We might label it slightly different, but again, it's mind-blowing to think how many concepts we share, and it's not as if we've been talking about this. So I find it mind-blowing. This is really cool.
Well, I don't know if you've heard my meditation on plucking the string within the fairy dust meditation, but principally the idea is all of us are beings of light, and you can think of it as a string of light, and the strings are all connected to the universal web. So we're all connected. We could all tap into the energy of the universe and be asked to be presented with the string that we want to connect with. So right now our strings are like having a nice little orchestrated dance, you know.
And I'm thinking, as you say it, it's like of the Avatar, it's like that.
Yeah.
Like all those. Oh,
yes.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Right?
It's like, it's like, ooh, yeah, I'm there.
So that's pretty much my theory, and I'm sticking to it. So
I like your theory. I don't think it's a theory. I think there's reality in it, but obviously because we can't actually physically see it, people only believe what they see.
Right.
And so
that's
it's an interesting thing. Yeah.
I have way more fun imagining. Nice. Yes.
Very nice that you have such strong visuals, because I think that makes it more real, more tangible, more visceral.
Absolutely. And to me, it's so much more fun to think about limitless possibilities. So, yeah.
Oh, that's deep.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I have more questions for you. Let's see. What's something that you've learned lately that has been new to you and surprised you?
Sure. That you are really switched on. I like that very much. Even more so than I've always known.
That's awesome.
I think something that it keeps getting reaffirmed is that horses are actually very, very intelligent animals, but we tend to not relate to them because they have monocular vision. So when we talk about structure function, their eyes are set on the side of their face, therefore they have lateral thinking. And because our eyes are set in the front of our face, and so it is with dogs as well, we have direct line thinking. And so it's not that horses are less intelligent than dogs, they just have a different intelligence. And so we tend to not necessarily always appreciate the intelligence, and because it's not like us. They don't think like us, they think different. And it's almost like there's like Shrek says, or not Shrek, the donkey in Shrek says, onions are like or donkeys are like onions and they have layers or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, so I find it fascinating to see every time I think I'm starting to understand there's another layer of intelligence that we are tapping into. And I have one of the chapters in my book, I talk about training horses from the inside out, using communication rather than training horses from the outside in, using manipulation.
Right.
And the more I play with it, the more I realize you don't actually have to even put a bit in the horse's mouth to be able to connect with their front feet and their back feet and their pelvis and their shoulders through the 6 connections, and train them to do some fascinating things. And I think what is really nice for me is I am now able to explain it in very simple terms to other people, whereas before I think it was quite esoteric. To ride a horse with nothing on, it's very esoteric, and it's starting to become more and more something that I see it becoming more mainstream instead of the alternative. People are starting to go, if you think about it, at some stage, there were no cell phones. And how did we even survive without it? It's like, and now, if you don't have a smartphone, it's like, under what rock have you been living? So that's like the attitude towards it. And so it's fascinating to see how technology has evolved in a matter of, let's say, 20 years. I don't know the exact number because I think there's been a progression, but in the way that we think and relate to horses, it's definitely evolving really, really fast.
Yes.
Suddenly it feels as if it's picking up momentum, whereas initially it was really slow, maybe because of the internet. So before we had to study books, you had to go to someone physically to learn something, whereas I think we are rapidly able to share information with each other,
at our fingertips.
Ways of thinking.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that as a result, it's evolving really fast. So I just think that horses are super clever, and I keep being amazed by it, and it, like every time I go, okay, I think I've got it now. And then like the next layer opens up and it's like, I go, wow, this is amazing. I still don't get it. I think I have to go back and learn some more. And then like I start immersing myself, and then I get to a place where I think I understand it now. And then another layer opens up again.
That's what's so amazing. It is like an onion. You keep getting through layers. I had one young student, it was quite cute. She said, it's like when I ride, I'm playing a video game, and when I get better, I get to the next level.
Oh, isn't that a nice analogy? Exactly. Exactly like that.
Yes.
No, it's like the doors key start that they open, or you get the key under the rock or the sword behind a stone, and then that opens up a new. Yeah, exactly like that. The funny thing for me, or the fascinating thing for me, sorry to interrupt you, is that the smaller the toolbox, the bigger the skill. So it's really interesting to see. I used to have bags full of equipment when I was young, and now I have one tiny little backpack that literally has a long rope, a short rope reins, a rope halter, a reward bag, gloves to prevent row burn and to not get frostbitten, and it's got a rubber snaffle in it. That's it. There's nothing else in that bag. Oh, and some nice energy bars.
That's good. That's good. We need to give you the treats too.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's such an interesting thing to really focus more on communication and less on manipulation, and really explore that and its fullness. And so, yeah, the toolbox is definitely getting smaller and smaller. So one of these days, I'm going to even try and leave the bag at home and go with nothing.
Less is more, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Da Vinci and Steve Jobs used to say, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication.
Yes, I love that. So coming back to that, you were talking about clarity and doing less, and how clever horses are. Something my clients and I have been doing a lot more of is saying out loud exactly what we'd like the horse to do as like an invitation. And when we say it out loud, it also helps us create the image, because the horses think in pictures. So when we use our words, then we use our images in our minds from our hearts and send that idea to them. And then our body language backs it up, then it's like this three-way communication of inviting them to do something. And then if they don't understand, being okay with it and not pressuring them more. So I think it's so cool, though, the more I've been speaking, especially just a real basic thing when I do blanketing for Pepper and Indy. Pepper is very pushy, and he loves to push Indy, and he, because he's the boss. And so what I had to do is I would turn to Pepper and say, Pepper, I need to put on Indy's blanket safely. You need to stand there. And he just went, oh. And he just stood there. And I was like,
That's
all I
beautiful.
needed to do. I didn't have to get upset. I didn't have to shake my hands at him.
Yeah.
You know, it was like,
ah!
oh, okay. And he just stood there and waited. And then after, I said, okay, now you can have your treats. Thank you very much. It was amazing. So I just wanted to share that, you know, just by speaking out loud clearly. Again, abracadabra. Ta-da.
Yeah, isn't it?
We brought
That
it
is
back.
special. Oh,
Yes.
wow. Interesting thing that I have seen race car drivers do as well is they literally, so this may be a little bit more a digital way to think about it, is that they use their language brain to tell their limbic brain, which is a feeling brain, how to drive. So they'll go touch the brake, gear down, apex, apex, apex. So they look where they're going, and
They're
then
talking
they
themselves
accelerate
through
out
it.
of. Yeah, so they
Nice.
literally, their language brain is telling their limbic brain where our habits are formed and new behaviors are learned. They're literally telling their limbic brain what actions they want it to do, so that the next time they come to the same corner or same bend in the road, they don't tell the limbic brain, you stuffed it up, you're so useless, you should have braked a little bit softer and not pulled the steering wheel so hard. They actually tell their brain what to do next time when they go through the same turn to improve.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, but I love the way that you speak it.
Thank you. And I love that story. And that really goes into the idea that your mind needs to hear what you actually want to create. So when you actually speak it into existence, then your mind can create those neural pathways. So you might as well tell it good things.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like to focus on the 20% that's working, and maybe just to explain where I got the math from. If you think about the invisible box, if your bit and then your rein on the right, I don't know, to you it might be your left, your rein on the right, and your legs create a rectangle around your horse. It is something from a bird's eye view, something that your horse can feel, but they cannot see it. And so it is such an interesting thing, because that makes the horse obviously feel claustrophobic, and that increases their cortisol levels. So if one has a clear picture in your mind of what it is that you want, and there are these full invisible walls around the horse, fundamentally, if your horse walks forward, if you're trying to get them to stand still, you are going to say no. Every time it bumps into pressures, feedback, no, it's not forward. No, it's not back. No, it's not to the left. No, it's not to the right. Yes, it's neutral. So 4 out of 5 times we're fundamentally saying no, 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 no. And only 1 out of 5 times we're saying yes. So I often will ask clients, if I said to you, no, that's not good enough. 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 Would you want to have a lesson with me? And they go, no, that's terrible. And I go, that's why we focus on the 20% that the horse is trying to do right, and we incentivize them for it instead of focusing on what they're doing wrong, because you get sucked into that 80% really quickly. And before you know it, you're constantly giving negative feedback. And so it's really important to focus on the 20% that your horse is trying to do right and point that out. Well done for trying, instead of saying, no, it wasn't good enough.
Absolutely. And that's what I strive to do too. So I'm really glad you said that. I had a random question pop in my mind, because it's something that I've done naturally, and I know it helps to calm the horse. I wonder if you know anything about the science of it, but especially with thoroughbreds, I find figure eights and lots of changes of direction seem to help them come back to a neutral, calm space. Do you know anything about that, or why that is?
So I'm going to give you my take on it. I've spoken to a professor before, and I explained the autonomic nervous system, and he listened. He heard me out, and afterwards he said to me, "It's not quite how I would have explained the autonomic nervous system, but the more important thing is, does it work the way that you explain it to your clients?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, in that case, keep doing it." He says, "Because as we research the brain, we realize how little we actually understand it, because let's say MRI machine, for instance, before they had MRI, they only had X-rays. So they came to certain conclusions based on X-rays. And then now that they have MRI and even more advanced technology, and they can, I think it's called EKG, they start realizing, but the brain is firing, because we used to believe that we only use 7% of our brain capacity. And that's not necessarily true. At any given time, you're using 7%, but it's that 7% moves around. So let's say in peak hour traffic, there's lots of cars on the road, and that's 7% activity is on the road. And then everyone is at work, and now the 7% is in tall buildings. And then when they go home, it's like then you at night, the 7% is in the suburbs. So the activity moves around your brain. So your whole brain cannot be active all at once, because then I'm sure you would be able to jump from this universe to another one. But,
did you ever see the movie Lucy?
With
Morgan
who's the main
Freeman,
actress?
Morgan Freeman and Scarlett Johansson.
I think I have, must have. What's it about?
It had to do with her getting her brain on all the way up to 100.
Oh, yes, I have.
It's
That's
intense.
mind-blowing.
So, yeah, if anyone wants to watch it, it's very intense. It's a Baz Luhrmann film, and I love all of his women roles. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's cool. So it creates a little bit of like, we're going there in the brain. So now to get back a little bit to my interpretation. For one, when we do figures of 8, it's like, and this is a nice one to remember, flexibility increases relaxation, and relaxation increases flexibility. So fundamentally, when the horse's body is bending this way, the right half in your eyes would be the left half of the body has to uncontract. So fundamentally, this side goes parasympathetic, this side goes sympathetic. So the contracted side is contracting and going sympathetic, this goes parasympathetic. And so the brain is getting challenged because half of it is contracting and half is uncontracting. And so that's a fascinating thing when you ask an horse to bend. So a good example of it, if you had to stand next to a horse and you ask them to do a carrot stretch, if there's no halter on them and you literally just offer them the carrot, they bend really easy and they just come and fetch the carrot. The moment you try and pull on the rein that's attached to the bit, you get opposition reflex and the horse goes into the pressure. So it's interesting to get relaxation first. So I talk about learning in 3 stages. Initially at stage 1, we literally just use reward as feedback, no reward as feedback, no pressure. So the horse can come and carrot stretch and they come really easy. So we train the answer first, bend your neck, have the reward. Well done, easy. Phase 2 of learning, we start saying, I'm going to hold on to the lead. So I'm not going to try and pull you. I'm just going to hold. So if you turn your head a little bit away from me, you're going to get pressure feedback on the side of your face. But when you turn your head towards me, there will obviously be a release of feedback and a reward as feedback. So that's like a hybrid method between the pressure and release method and the reward, no reward method. And so that's where I operate. And then phase 3, which is very much the conventional way of training, is we use pressure as feedback and release as feedback. Still a binary language, but we're basically saying no when the horse gets something, when they get it wrong, pressure is feedback. But then when they get it right, we're not rewarding them. We just release this feedback to communicate, yes, this is what I want. But it's not really a clear yes, it's just a neutral. And so it's really interesting that people fundamentally skip those first 2 stages and they just want to go straight to phase 3 without actually training the answer before they ask the question. And so that's why we build a lot of anticipatory anxiety into horses unintentionally. So coming back to the bending definitely, flexibility increases relaxation increases flexibility. Also, what happens is if you're doing it on a figure of 8, you are fundamentally changing brain hemispheres. So let's say you're circling left and you are lunging, for argument's sake, or leading the horse. And so the horse sees you on the left-hand side. When we change rein and we're lunging, we're going to be on the right-hand side of the horse's brain. So a horse's brain is contralateral, same as a human. So the right brain hemisphere regulates everything that happens on the left half of the horse's body. The left brain hemisphere regulates everything that happens on the right half of the horse's body. So what's really nice about lunging and leading the horse is you cannot be on both sides of the horse at the same time. So if you compare it to juggling, it's literally throwing the ball up and down in your right hand. And when you get that really good, you switch and you put it in the other hand, and now you practice the other hand. But if we are sitting on the horse's back and we try and do both sides simultaneously, that's starting to pass the ball from this hand to that hand. And if the horse doesn't have the coordination in the individual brain hemisphere and the other, so one half, other half, and we start saying, now look at me with both eyes, concentrate on my legs and my hands on both sides of you at the same time, the horse literally goes into overwhelm. And so another way to think of it is, I often ask people, have you ever tried to brush your teeth with your left hand if you are right-handed? People go, no, why would I want to do that? And I go, for dexterity's sake. So imagine trying to brush your teeth with both hands simultaneously. That's how challenging it is for a horse when we sit on their back, because in their mind, there's two people sitting on their back. There's a person on their left, which is normally their more confident side because they get handled a lot more on the left-hand side. So they say, oh, wow, Beth, my friend on the left-hand side, you're so nice. But the Beth on the right-hand side is more corporate, more serious. And they go, this one that looks just like that one, she's a lot more scary than that one. So, yeah, so it's really interesting when we're on both sides of the horse. I definitely think that they go into overwhelm. So to break it down, deconstruct it, and make it simpler, it's really useful to work one side and then work the other side, especially the right-hand side, because we need to catch up, brushing with a not so confident hand. And then when that's equally confident, then when we get on, we have a very different horse underneath us.
Love that. And it also reminds you to build your empathy button, because when the horse is going on the side that's harder for them, instead of us getting frustrated, we can go, hey, would you be riding with the non-dominant hand just as beautifully? Like, you've got to turn into their cheerleader instead of, being frustrated with them. So I think it's really important to make that shift. And I love the reminder that suppleness and flexibility brings you back to relaxation. And that makes total sense. I loved how you explained the figure eight. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you for that. Such a nice quality question.
Thank you. It was something that was on my mind. Also, going back to my esoteric learning, there's some words got all jumbled because that happened. Sorry. Tom Kenyon is a sound healing channeler from entities called the Hathors. And I have this book, and he talks about imagining a figure eight within your brain, and it'll help calm you. And it made me thinking about the figure eight with the horses. And I'll often do that just on Zoom, like just thinking about figure eights and infinity symbols and how we're all connected. And this is how my mind works. So I just thought it was really fun to play with.
No, I like that. So another thing is the corpus callosum is under the little bridge between the two brain hemispheres, underdeveloped in horses and in men. That's why we cannot multitask. Did you know that?
So interesting. I didn't know that. But there was a video talking about how men function in boxes, and they have a box for everything. And you have to like tap them on the shoulder and say, are you okay to come out of this box to talk about this box? Whereas the women, we're all wired for everything. We're all connected.
Exactly. Exactly. So a female brain literally has lots more connections between the two brain hemispheres. And I'm now thinking, as you talk about that infinity sign, when you think in that figure of eight pattern, you basically keep switching from one side to the other side. But can you see how the information is passing through the corpus callosum, the bridge, and then going to this side of the brain, and then it comes back and it comes through the bridge and it comes to this side. So I'm wondering,
turning it all on,
Yeah. So when I work horses over for water jumps especially, what I normally do is I put two tarps on the ground, but I make a gap in the middle. So I'm sending the horse on my rope, on my 15-foot horse handling rope. I send it through the gap, and then I turn them. I bring them to me initially to reward them. Well done for going through the gap, because this is the most scary part, to go through this gap. When it comes through the gap, they turn, I reward them. And then as they stand, I ask them, go through the gap this way. So we keep changing eyes and we keep changing sides. And then the horse comes through the gap again, to the gap, turn, come for your reward, go this way. Can you see your infinity sign?
That's awesome. I love it. That's a great tip. I might play with that when it comes time to doing more water stuff. I love it.
Absolutely. It's like, so you can do it with anything. You can do it with, and I don't know if you call it a 22-gallon or 40-gallon drum. Those plastic, we have it's called 200-liter drum in South Africa.
Oh, like the barrels they use for barrel racing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, a barrel that's
Yeah.
made out of plastic. It's like, so I don't like the steel ones because sometimes they also bump against it,
Sure.
and we
Big
don't want them
plastic
to
ones.
hurt or bruise themselves. Plastic ones, they bump it, it spins.
Right.
So if you can imagine that you put a 200-liter drum with a meter gap in between, and you train the horse go through the gap. Every time they cross this line, we go mark that desired response, turn, come and fetch your reward. So you can use any obstacle, but the intention is to have a gap. And then in time, when they know that they're going to get rewarded, they start going to the gap by themselves because they know they get rewarded here. And then we put a car tire there, flat on the ground, and they start popping over that. And eventually we put a second car tire and they pop over that. And eventually we put a third car tire. And now the tires are level with the drums, and the horse is learning. So that's how I train horses for eventing to jump skinnies, because once they know that they must jump the tires, then you start moving the drums away in 10 centimeter increments, but they keep jumping the tires because they know they get rewarded for doing that. And then slowly you start moving the tires away.
Love that. That's awesome.
So next level. You're gonna go and do this thing now.
Perhaps we'll see.
No, don't. So Master Yoda says
I'm
no
still on the fence about cross country with Pepper. Like, I like the idea of just jumping in the arena. That's what I mean. But if I was training,
no, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to go cross country. It's such a nice thing to train.
That's true. To have that that would help with straightness. I'm going to do that.
Exactly.
There you go.
Now we're talking.
Now I'm thinking why it would help. Yeah, my brain's going back online again. Thank you for that. Thank you. It takes a moment. I have 2 more questions from my clients that I just realized I forgot. Sorry. So I've got Kelly wanted to know, can you recommend some beginning exercises for a horse that's new to dressage?
Ooh, Kelly, good quality questions, get good quality answers with the voice of Morgan Freeman. So what's really important, and I'm going to go fast, is like, because you can always rewind it and watch it again. So if I can suggest, Kelly, that you make notes as I explain, you can always go back to the notes, because there's quite a few really cool things that you're going to do. You definitely want to help your horse to find neutral feet in the middle of our invisible box. So right in the beginning, I was talking about my neutral mat. So that to me is really, really important, that the horse knows how to stand still in the middle of the invisible box that your bit, your reins, and your legs create from a bird's eye view. And the mat is such a nice exercise because you're standing in front of the horse, you're holding onto, and I prefer a rope halter, because the halter is self-centering. So if you hold the fiador knot under their jaw here, it's like a joystick almost. So if the horse is in the middle of the mat with their feet, they will be in the middle of the invisible box around their head, because the halter fundamentally creates this invisible box. Obviously, if they pull back, there will be pressure on the back of their head. If they walk forward into you, there will be pressure on the bridge of their nose. So there's already a parameter behind, a parameter in front. If they step to this side, there will be pressure here. The one knot's going to touch them on the side of their face, which is ultimately going to bring them back to the middle. Every time they come back to the middle, we want to mark and motivate. So we go for a desired response and give the horse, do you call it a pony nut or a pellet?
Just call it a treat.
A treat. Then you give your horse every time. So every time your horse tries to touch the mat with either foot initially. So as reward the smallest tries. It's the biggest favor you can do your horse. And then when they put one foot on consistently, then it's not difficult to get the second foot on, but you really want to help them to find neutral in the middle of that invisible box. So if their feet's on both feet on the mat, fundamentally the head is in the middle of the halter, and that really transferred to under saddle when we start putting a bit in their mouth, reins on the either side, legs behind, and the horses at least understand. So we've trained the answer before we actually ask the question. Otherwise, we get on a young dressage horse and we expect them to stand still, and they're feeling claustrophobic and they're pushing on the box, and we keep telling them no, and we increase their cortisol levels, and we actually develop anticipatory anxiety. So that to me is a big one. Then the next one. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm agreeing.
And I keep going. I'm like,
Yeah.
so then the next one, we want to put the bridle on, noseband nice and loose so that you can put 2 fingers under the noseband like this. So
Yes.
definitely be able to do that. Otherwise, the horse cannot lick and chew properly. And so very important, take the flash off and use it to tie up firewood with. That's, you don't need a flash noseband, all this extra leather. And then your cavesson noseband, you want to make the cavesson noseband so that you can fit 2 fingers. So, and the purpose of a cavesson noseband is actually to take beautiful pictures. So the rule of thirds, from the brow band to the noseband is 2/3, and then from the noseband to the tip of the muzzle is another third. So it's for beautiful pictures. That's what a noseband is actually for. It's not to tie the horse's mouth shut, because if we tie the horse's mouth shut, we are actually creating what I call artificially induced stress. So if a horse is not able to lick and chew, and more importantly, not able to swallow, the horse cannot redirect the blood away from the muscles back to the intestine. So that is a big deal for me. Every time I train people, I ask them permission. I'm always very polite. Do you mind if I take the flash noseband off because we want to feed your horse? And they go, no problem. And then I normally throw it somewhere in the grass. And then they can't find it. And then they phone me afterwards and go, where did you put my noseband? I go, I'm sorry, it's in the grass next to the arena somewhere.
I often suggest to put it on the front of the saddle as like an grip,
Yeah. That's a good purpose, like multi-purpose noseband. We like that. That's a good purpose for it. Yeah. Very much so. You can tie your boots up with it as well. Works really well for that as well. And then so once you have that, then you want to stand in front of your horse. You want to hook your thumbs into the snaffle ring, and then use your index finger and your middle finger and basically squeeze the bit up towards the ears as if you're squeezing a syringe on either side to the ears to encourage a jaw release. And so when you get that licking and chewing, the moment you get licking and chewing, you want to mark and motivate your horse with food. So what we're actually doing is, unlike Pavlov that rang the bell and then gave the dog a piece of meat, we're using a tactile trigger in your horse's mouth corners to get the licking and chewing going. But more importantly, it's the food that goes to the intestines that's telling the brain food's coming. And then the autonomic nervous system says, if there's food coming, the blood cannot be in the muscles and in the intestines at the same time. So it redirects the blood back to the intestines. So that's a biggie, another biggie. And then the next level up is to train the horse to stretch forward and down. So, and so fundamentally, it's still the same cue. So we still both thumbs standing in front of your horse, facing your horse, thumbs into the snaffle ring on either side, hold the noseband on either side, squeeze. And now when your horse starts licking and chewing, you're not going to click and reward or mark and motivate. You're going to release this feedback. Well done for doing that. And then you imagine that your belt buckle, you guys have got very cool belt buckles in America. Get yourself a really nice, colorful belt buckle. And then you get your horse to come and touch your belt buckle with their muzzle. So we train them to uncontract their back muscles and stretch forward and down. So if you have a horse that is calm and relaxed in their brain and their back muscles are uncontracted, it is that much easier then to try and train them to contract their stomach muscles, to put their hind feet more forward and under the deepest part of the saddle where the rider's weight is. And if you think of going to the gym and weightlifting, if we are holding, if someone is pushing my neck down like this while I'm trying to lift weights, it's going to be impossible. So if someone is holding the horse's mouth and the pole is lower than the third neck vertebra, the horse cannot lift their torso and the rider's weight up. So you want to allow the horse to uncontract their back, and then you want to get their stomach muscles to contract, because the muscles always work in pairs. So unless the top line is uncontracted, the stomach muscles cannot bring those hind feet forward and under the deepest part of the saddle. So a simple picture, it's not absolutely correct, but a simple picture to have in your mind is you want the horse's left hind foot under your left seat bone if you're sitting in the saddle, and your horse's right hind foot under your right seat bone, because that's when they can start lifting you up. If we do levade or passade, for instance, if you want to do the higher school movements, but that's only possible if the horse's hind feet is here. If the horse's hind feet are here, back out the back door, or even under the horse, and you'll see this at competitive level, Grand Prix level dressage, even at Olympic level, that a lot of the horses will bring their front feet further and further back until their front feet is actually under the girth. So that horse is actually still putting weight on their front feet. They're not putting the weight on their hind feet. And the reason why is because they contracted in their back. And the reason why they contracted in their back is because they're unable to lick and chew, because they cannot access the parasympathetic state of the autonomic nervous system. So we are artificially inducing stress. And then because we put a double bridle in their mouth, we can physically control them because we're holding them in this invisible box. So it's a big thing to be able to say, hey, I don't have to hold you in the invisible box. I can just calm your nervous system down, and then the horse starts relaxing, and then we get some really nice piafs and passages because the horse is doing it from a place of relaxation. And then it's much more expressive, than a horse that is doing it from a place where the muscles are opposing each other and it looks very mechanical like this.
And I don't know about you, but if I want to go have fun dancing, if my mouth is tied, it's not going to be pleasant.
Or stick to your mouth, and we use insulation tape around your head.
Yeah, I mean, I would think of it that way. Like, how would that feel to me? So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I love that explanation. Thank you so much for that. And I think
my pleasure. I hope I didn't offend anyone.
If every horse person could actually hear that and take it in, this would be a whole new world, I tell you.
Fortunately, there's like-minded people, and slowly but surely, it's like the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
We are training or changing this whole industry from the inside out. It's like, because there's people that are starting to say, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Don't want to ever do that again. So for every one finger that's pointing away from me, there's three fingers pointing back.
Yeah, I was like that too until I realized how bad it was. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that again. So,
exactly. Yeah. And the nice thing is we're willing to try something, fail at it, learn from it, improve on it, repeat. And we keep, and like I said earlier on, because of social media and the internet, we try, fail, learn quite fast. Like Elon Musk, he's literally blowing up a rocket a week, but every time they learn something from it and they're improving, they don't just keep blowing the rockets up. They're actually starting to now do it like once every 2 months, which is amazing. Actually, it's happening less and less and less, which is really cool. We like it like that. We don't like it when he blows up the rocket. We don't like breaking horses.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Carrie wanted to know if you have any tips for maintaining cadence / rhythm through circles and serpentines, or serpentines, however you say it.
Okay. So a cadence is another thing. And this comes just to explain how everything fits. Definitely the stuff that I explained in terms of, first of all, we relax the horse in the autonomic nervous system, undo the noseband, get the blood away from the muscles, back to the intestine, get the horse eating, and mark and motivate the desired response. And then start contracting the stomach muscles, which rotates the pelvis, gets the hind feet more forward and under the deepest part of the saddle, lifts the rider up. So that already, if you think of in terms of weightlifting, we start using our glutes, the big muscles in our hindquarters, to lift the weight rather than the small muscles in the neck. So I'm sure you've seen this in the gym when people do this, they yank their neck up and then they lift the weight up. That's very bad for your lower back. So you see horses going into a canter, they flick their neck like this and people try and hold them down. So we're trying to avoid it. We want to train the horse in the walk to engage their inside hind foot on a circle. So shoulder in on a circle, helps the horse to put the one foot. It's like learning to juggle. We just do one side. So we train, put your right hind foot forward and under the deepest part of the saddle where my weight is. And when that's working really well, obviously we want to do the same on the left, because normally horses are, we call it one-sided, it's like, or asymmetrical, I think is the word. And so we obviously, the left foot, someone used this analogy. They said, it's like, imagine you standing with your right foot on a skateboard and you're pushing with your left foot. That's a horse for you. It's like they can do that really well. But now switch and you put your left foot on the skateboard and you try and push with your right foot, it feels weird and you're going to wobble.
Or even just trying to get on the opposite side. I'm like, I can't put my foot in. I'm just going to put my leg over. It's too weird.
It does feel strange, eh? Or you get on and then you realize my horse doesn't have a head. So yeah, definitely get the hind foot under the deepest part of the saddle, but train one half, then train the other half. Because that is what really helps the horse to lift their torso. And when their torso is more up, the base of the neck is more up. And then that's where the cadence comes from. When the horse's weight is supported by their back feet being more, back legs being more forward and under, instead of trying to hold them down in their neck and their back legs, when their back muscles and their lower back are contracted, you can literally see the stride length is different. So the amazing thing nowadays with our really nice phones is you can video something and then you can pause it and then you can scroll very slowly on your phone and you can see the difference. So I video people a lot, and then I will say to them, you're holding the horse too much in front. And they go, no. And then I go, okay, I'm in a video. So I normally have already got proof. I go, watch this. I go, okay, now release the horse a little bit in its mouth, pick up its pole a little bit. So we ask the horse to come a bit more up rather than riding the horse behind a vertical with the pole lower than the third neck vertebra. We actually lift them up a little bit so they're a little bit more open. And then we do exactly the same thing. And suddenly that hind leg is coming that little bit more forward and under. It might just be, let's say for argument's sake, to keep it simple, the stride length is 1 meter. If you get your horse to relax their back a little bit more and you can increase it by 5%, the horse is now going 1 meter and 5 centimeters more forward and under. And suddenly the horse starts feeling a little bit lighter. People go, that's amazing. And I go, yeah, all you have to do is let go a little bit. And so that's really the intention.
Let go. That's the key. Let go. Yes.
Yeah, because we want to control everything.
That's one of my biggest lessons. This has been awesome. I have one last question for you, Jenku.
You are welcome. I have time. I'm in the most beautiful city in the world called Cape Town. And I have flown in especially to do this podcast from Durban. I almost didn't get here because British Airways is, I don't know, they have something happening. It's like they're striking or something. And so I was the second last plane to leave. Wow. Or left on the second last plane out of Durban, and I flew to Cape Town, and the sun sets here at 7:30 in the evening. So you can go all day if you want.
Beautiful. Well, let me see. Okay, so you know the billboards you see as you're driving along, and there's one big expression there. What would you write on your billboard if everyone in the horse world could see it?
Together we can improve the future for horse and human.
Beautiful. And I go into Canva and I create it, and then you'll have your own image with your billboard.
That would be so cool. I'm one of those people that like flashy things like Las Vegas. Eh? So if you can Goy and Canva,
I'll try to make
that would be amazing. Yeah, we wanted like lots of lights. Vegas. People need to notice it.
You got it. Yours will be extra special. I love it. I love it.
Especially in Canva, because I have not used Canva myself, but I see people doing some amazing things in Canva. So yeah, go for it.
Thank you. Yes, I've actually been really fortunate to learn it, and everything I do, I just jump in and then I do tutorials as much as possible. I actually created my journal on Canva, believe it or not.
Unbelievable. Thank you, because I actually have your journal and you sent it to me specially with, like, I had it printed on demand. It was mind-blowing. And then it arrived here with a courier, and I didn't expect them. It's like, so this guy is standing outside our gate, pressing his hooter, and I'm like looking through the window, and he's like, I've got a parcel for you. I go, what? And he's like, it's from America. I go, what? That's amazing. I think it took 3 weeks from when we spoke about it to when it arrived.
Right? Isn't that awesome? I'll show everybody, if you haven't seen it yet. This is a physical journal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Believe in your magic. And actually, I'm getting ready to create the next version because my dear friend Carrie has created coloring pages with gorgeous horses and a lot of the inspired riding sayings. So I'd like to add that in there for people to like meditate and color in the back of the journal. I think that would be really fun, don't you think?
Special, eh? Yeah, my mom is big into coloring as well. It's like she loves
cool.
it.
Good
She
deal.
spends like hours and days coloring in a picture.
I love it. So is there anything that you wanted to say that I didn't ask you?
Ooh, we could talk for days on end. Do you really want to ask me this question? No, you know what, Beth? I think it's really nice that people are asking questions, and I really appreciate it. That there's like a whole bunch of people asking questions from very different directions. But in the end, and I think this is something that is coming through in our conversation a lot, it's very interesting to see, even though we might use different ways to describe it, that in its essence, we are talking about the same thing, that there's this universal consciousness, and that we are all able, through your strings of light, that we're able to tap into this universal consciousness. And yes, we obviously spend lots of time thinking, dreaming. That's all I do. I don't think anything else but horses. But yeah, that other people also have access, that it's not just some like a special gift that only you or I have it, that other people can actually also access it. And I think that's something that I really want to encourage people to believe in your own I can.
Yes, I always say, believe in your magic and know that you are powerful. Your horse believes in you, and so do I.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. That's deep. That's like King Arthur.
But yes, and that's the one thing that I just have to always remind people of. You are powerful. Don't let yourself become a victim. You can make changes happen. You know, of all the things that happened to me in my life, I could have just stayed wallowing in self-pity, but that is not in my nature. I'm like a cork in the ocean. I just keep popping back up. So
quite literally, eh? Yeah, no, you are resilient. That is for sure.
Thank you. But I so appreciate everything that you have shared. You're always so generous with your information. And I really enjoyed the clarity in this conversation. And I want to applaud you because I know it has shifted for you as well. And I'm so impressed with how you're explaining things now.
I very much appreciate it. But you are a very big source of inspiration. I often think of when I'm sitting there for 12 to 16 hours in front of my computer, how you've made the meditations to say, and it's hard work, it takes lots of effort, and I'm sure people can see it. It's like, this is not something that you just quickly throw out there. You really drill down, and there's so much attention to detail. It's really beautiful and very special. So you are a big source of inspiration. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That's awesome to hear. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to when the weather gets better, and then perhaps we can go back to some remote lessons with little Pepper and I, because we sure love them. So
I would very much like that. Yeah, so I'm holding thumbs for you for good weather, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so nice. And then we had this crazy windstorm and snow flurry south of Atlanta, Georgia. Like, what's that about? So I don't know.
The world is changing.
But I'm very, very grateful that we're all here together. And thank you again, Jenku, for being here with us. And
my absolute pleasure. My absolute pleasure. Eh?
Thank you. And I just want to remind everyone, if you want to get a hold of Jenku, which website should they go to?
So it's under construction.
Okay.
But I'll let you know. I think what we'll need to do is maybe we do another podcast. Is like when we're ready to launch. It's like, so it's Jenku.tv.
Okay.
But, I'm working very hard on trying to get it out, and I know the pressure's on. I actually was trying very hard to have it ready so that we could say, "Hey, we've got it. This is it." But the animations, learning to animate, is taking a lot of time, and
that's
so
impressive too. Yeah.
So soon. I think, but cool. Yeah, I was really pushing hard to have it ready for this podcast, but unfortunately I didn't quite make it. So hopefully in another month or two, I think we'll be able to say, yay, Hey,
Yes.
here it
Well,
is.
when it's ready, you let me know. We'll have a launch party in the group for you. So
Oh, that's going to be amazing. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Beth.
you're welcome. Thank you. All
We're
right.
going to
Well,
have candles as well, hey?
Of
A
course.
cake and candles.
maybe
And are we allowed
the sparkler.
to are we allowed to pop champagne?
Why not?
Why not? I like you. We are going to have an online party.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I
Jenku.
appreciate you asking me. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that is listening and watching. If you're living in America, you already have the I can gene because it says I can.
Oh, I love that. I never even thought of that. How cool is that?
And that's cool. You guys are in South Africa. We also have the I can gene because it says South Africa, I can.
There you go.
So we are like this. We are like twins.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Beth. I really appreciate this opportunity. Hey?
Thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. And remember, everyone, to lead with kindness for yourself and for your horse. And may the horse be with you always.
May the horse be with you always.